The Chargers looked great last week after starting to get healthy, but unfortunately, they have just lost two more important pieces, including Derwin James.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to all the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcasts from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, the Chargers got a dominating victory on Thursday Night Football, but unfortunately it did come at a cost. A couple of very important defensive stars are going to be out for a little bit of time. We'll get into the updates on both of those guys. And is Joe Alt the most important player on the team besides Justin Herbert? I think there's definitely an argument to be made that he is. And is it possible? Is there any way that Oronde Gadsden II gets to 1,000 yards receiving after missing 2 games? Man, it's going to be tough. Not impossible, but it's going to be really tough.
It will be tough, man, but I mean, on the tear he's currently on, it's hard to put anything past him. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And David, you brought it up a little bit with Derwin James and his kind of injury update that we have right now. And the other player is Tarheeb still. And those are two of the most important players in the Chargers secondary. And of course, with this team, man, like it's just one step forward, 2 steps back. Like it's hard to feel great about a victory because you only really get that victory because of the health that you've gained over the last couple of weeks. And then you lose a couple more potentially, you potentially lose a couple more very, very important players. And let's get to the first part here from Tom Pelissero about Derwin James. He says, Charger safety Derwin James is believed to have suffered a low ankle sprain Thursday night against Minnesota. Per sources, James will undergo an MRI today, which is from Friday, but the hope is it's nothing major. And David, that is good news. If it's a low ankle sprain, that's good news. Oh my God, how many high ankle sprains have we seen so far? To just not hear high ankle sprain, I guess is good news there. But the MRI has happened. We haven't heard anything else, but if that's the case, that would definitely be good news.
Yes, it is. Also, just following up with that, Ian Rappaport also reported that there is a chance that James misses little or no game time. So hopefully that is the case. Yes, I along with you, was just celebrating the fact that it was not another high ankle sprain, because that is an injury that obviously has some volatility to it, depending on the position that you're playing and obviously, the things that you're being asked to do in your body, right? Everybody is going to heal at a little bit of a different rate. So fortunately, it is a low ankle sprain, so a lot less, danger of missing multiple weeks there for Derwin James. And, obviously considering the opponent, that they're playing, obviously you don't want to overlook anybody, but it is the Tennessee Titans, and they haven't done very well this year. And I think that's putting it very, very mildly. So I think if there's just any chance that he's not ready to go, I think you obviously lean on the side of caution there, but very good news that it's not something more serious with the heart and soul of the defense, Derwin James.
Yeah, I think when he leaves the game and it's kind of so definitively, seeing that he is done for that game, he's in street clothes, he's back on the sideline, but, there wasn't even like a thought of him potentially going back in. It is a little scary, especially because of all the walking boots we've seen. If I never see a walking boot again, I'll be good. But yeah, I think the hard thing is we don't have confirmation that it's a low ankle sprain at this point, but you do wonder, do they think they can get past the Titans without him? Like, how much does that play into the equation? Wait till you hear later with the FanDuel read how big of favorites the Chargers are going into Nashville on Sunday. But that's not the only guy, which makes it a little harder, because I think we were really worried about how long Derwin James would be out. But Tarheeb still seemed pretty positive he wasn't going to miss much time after the game. And then the reports come out over the weekend, also from Tom Pelissero. Cornerback Tarheeb Still, who left Thursday night's win with a knee injury, suffered an MCL sprain that is likely to sideline him 2 to 4 weeks per source. Another question mark in the secondary for LA, which visits Tennessee next Sunday. This one sucks because he said, I'll be back and I'll be good. No, I'll be great. And obviously it's like, okay, well, maybe this is something, especially on a Thursday game where you have 10 days before your next game where he won't have to miss any time. With Derwin James, I think the good part of that news is that there's no IR stint. It doesn't seem like, right? And we know that they're already kind of pushing. If they bring everybody back that they plan on bringing back on IR, they don't have a ton of slots left or any. This one is kind of unclear. I would say if it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks, obviously you're going to keep him off of IR just to kind of maintain the guys you can still bring back. But this one is a little unclear because we don't know for sure it's a low ankle for Derwin. This sounds pretty definitive, at least about the MCL sprain.
Yeah, and anytime you hear the word or I guess the letters MCL, I think you definitely hold your breath a little bit because obviously that's one of those ligaments in the knee that you hear a lot about, right? And obviously as long as you're not hearing the word torn associated with all of that, then I think you feel a whole lot better about it. Obviously with the sprain, 2 to 4 weeks. And I think you obviously look at the schedule, right? And you see that the Chargers have their bye in 3 weeks. So I think that actually bodes well for Tarheeb still not going on IR because of the way that the schedule is set up. They kind of already have that extra week kind of baked in available for him. I'm sure that, if there's anything there for where he's not 100%, going 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they'll probably just hold him out until after the bye and bring him back, give him that maximum time to be able to recover without having to put him on IR.
Yeah, so like you would think that if he was to go on IR, that's something you're thinking is a 5-week injury at that point, right? Because it's 3 games plus an extra week to get back, and then the following game the next week. So that is a good point and something that's going to factor into these equations. But it's just, man, like they need to be able to get through some of these games without losing important players.
Yeah.
And it just feels like at such an unprecedented rate that seems to be happening to them this year, where you get Joe Alt back, and then you lose Derwin, and you get Khalil Mack back, and then you lose someone else. Like, it's so tough to keep on trying to do the next man up mentality. But I think for the Chargers, it's like, who's going to play in the slot for you? Like, truly, like, those are the 2 guys that play in the slot for you the most. Tarheeb still, 190 snaps in the slot this year. Number 1 on the team. Second place, Derwin James, who has 165 snaps in the slot this year.
Yeah, those are your slot guys.
The next closest defensive back in the slot, Alohi Gilman at 19.
Yeah, and he's gone.
He's gone. The next after that is Tony Jefferson with 17, and then Jasir Taylor with 13. And a lot of those were in that last game when he had to come in late. So not super. There's no name there I'm going to say that makes you feel good, right? Maybe it's Nico Reed time, but I do think the Chargers are being a little more proactive about it, especially even if Derwin James does come back, having him play a little bit more in the slot, or even more in the slot, I should say, because this is the name of guys that they worked out this week or last week. Safety Lewis Seen, safety Marcus May and Marcus Williams, defensive tackles Christopher Hinton, obviously a familiar name, Raekwon Davis, Kyle Pico, and then cornerback Daryl Worley. So they're working guys out as if they're expecting some guys to miss time. And I think the one thing that kind of makes you feel better is, especially defensively, we've seen them, David, be able to take some guys off the street and then have them play meaningful snaps.
Yeah, they have. Absolutely. Hats off and credit to the Chargers defensive coaching staff with their ability to really get guys in the building, be able to translate their defense and disseminate and break it down to a absorbable level for these guys that are coming in and allowing them to go in and play fast. Obviously, with the NFL being a week-to-week league, it's so game plan specific. So if they're able to bring any of these guys in, hopefully they're able to get them honed in directly on what their assignments are for the game plan of how they want to beat the Tennessee Titans. And if that's the decision that they make, hopefully they're ready to go. But it is nice that you have a coaching staff on the defensive side that you feel very, very confident in their ability to get these guys ready to play.
Yeah, and there's no better example of that than Marcus May, who is one of the guys they're working out, because in his first game with the team last year, he got an interception, and he played pretty well up until when he got into a season-ending injury, right, and they had to look elsewhere for help. Marcus Williams is really interesting, too. Lewis Seen is a former first-round pick who his rookie year had a compound fracture in his leg and just hadn't really been the same since. And has bounced around. But Marcus Williams, really bad last year for Baltimore. At least that's what the metrics say. But the year before that in Baltimore, the 2 years before that in Baltimore, he was really solid. And that's when he was with former Baltimore coach, who's now the Seattle Seahawks coach, Mike Macdonald. And there is a lot of synergy between him and Jesse Minter's defense. So interesting. I expect one of those guys for sure to be, signed to the practice squad and then maybe elevated pretty soon. But we still have more to get into because it's Buy or Sell Tuesday. And we have to get into all the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions, including Joe Alt being the most important player on this team outside of Justin Herbert. We're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
David, what is time to get into Buy or Sell Tuesday, the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. And thank you to the everydayers out there who contributed on today's show. We have a lot of really good ones to get into, including this one, which after last game might not seem like as much of an overreaction as we thought it might be.
Daniel, David, I see you Buy or Sell Tuesday an overreaction. Joe Alt is the most important player on the football field aside from Justin Herbert. I'm buying it. We saw what happened on Thursday. What do you got to say? Thank you. Love you.
Shout out to Rand Jiggity on Instagram, who had basically an identical one. And I think it's a common sentiment right now, David. And I do not think this is an overreaction.
I do not either. And obviously, I think the proof's in the pudding, right? Or in the numbers. I love the graphic that came from Kay Adams' Up and Adams show. And I think it really clearly illustrates the impact that Joe Alt is able to make on the Chargers. Without Joe Alt, the Chargers are 1-3. With Joe Alt, they are 4-0. Points per game, 6 points better per game at 26.8 as opposed to 20.3. 18 less pressures allowed, and Justin Herbert's passer rating goes from 87.3 without him to 108.8 with him. Joe Alt is an incredible difference maker. The Chargers desperately needed to have him back. It showed right away the quality of their offense, their ability to be able to run the ball, to be able to throw the ball, to just have that comfort and that peace of knowing that Joe Alt got the left side locked down. And he was back to, even if he wasn't 100%, he was just as dominant as he has been. And I think that bodes well for him, hopefully taking a couple extra days, getting even healthier, and continuing to attack, hopefully, the rest of the season, because he is extremely important.
Yeah, I guess Khalil Mack's probably the next argument you could have there, but I don't even think that one's particularly close. And I think part of it is just the fact that Rashawn Slater is already done for the year, right? So losing Joe Alt right now means you're down both your top tackles, and then you're facing what you did a lot of the times the last month, which we just saw how hard it was for them to get anything going offensively when you're dealing with that kind of, attrition at that specific position, combined with the fact that if you lost Lam McConkey, for a short amount of time, God forbid, you have Keenan Allen, right? If you lose Quentin Johnston, you have Trey Harris, and so on and so forth, right? So I just don't know if there's another one-for-one where you could say, hey, this is the most important player, and the Chargers are so much better with him. I truly think it's probably Khalil Mack, just because, as you saw in that game, getting another sack, how much better that run defense was with him involved. He's up there and is the most important to me on the defensive side right now. But on the offensive side, it's Joe Alt, and I don't think that's actually particularly close, and I definitely don't think it's an overreaction. But what about this one from Nick, who says, Buy or sell, Bobby Hart took over the starting right tackle job. This is interesting, David, because I posted a little note in the game And I thought it was really interesting that at the end of the game, Trey Pipkins was in at left tackle, right? He was active in the game and was in at left tackle for the final however many snaps in garbage time. And I thought it was the right move to get Joe Alt out of there. At the same time, when Trey Pipkins wasn't the starting right tackle at the start of the game, it seemed to me that was kind of an emergency situation only, kind of like they told us Jamari Sawyer was the week before. I thought it was weird if he is banged up and borderline, why he's in there in garbage time and you're not having someone else go out there. I don't know, bodies are limited. But I don't think this is an overreaction. If he hasn't taken the starting job, he probably should have.
Well, if we listen to Coach Harbaugh.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
When we listen to Coach Harbaugh talk about the offensive line, he says, hey, the best players are going to play. And I think if that rings true, then you have to pay attention to what Bobby Hart has done. It is honestly very, very impressive for a guy who has not played for a couple of years to come out basically of retirement, played 212 snaps, 137 of those being pass blocking snaps, has not allowed a single sack, and has only allowed 4 pressures. Yeah, he's had 4 penalties, which a couple of those have not been bad, but I think that's gotten better too. The more he's played, the more he's been out there, the more comfortable he has been. Obviously, the Chargers are doing quite a bit schematically to help him out. Tucker Fisk is over there tripping pretty much every single play, and they're, making things a little bit more easy, which, hey, when you have Joe Alt back on the left side, you can do that on the right side. But even then, right, I think you have to, tip your cap to Bobby Hart to be going in there and solidifying that right side and making things look a little bit more competent, which with Trey Pipkins and, kind of the chronic injuries that he's kind of had to be able to nurse throughout his career, giving him a little bit of extra time to be able to get back and get 100% healthy. That's definitely a positive sign, but hey, the best player's got to play. And right now that looks like it's Bobby Hart at right tackle.
Yeah, I think the other interesting thing is like the thing with Jamari Sawyer is Greg Roman kind of told us after he was active but didn't play at all in the week before that he was kind of an emergency option, right?
Yeah.
But Jamari Sawyer didn't play last week, right? When Mekhi Becton went out, it was Foster Sorrell that went in there and took his place, even though Jamari Sawyer is a full week after being able to play the week before, right? So it could kind of be a soft benching. I don't think that's out of the question. I'm not saying it definitively. We'll see. This next game, I think, will tell us a lot if it's Bobby Hart out there starting or if it ends up being Trey Pipkins. Trey Pipkins not at 100% and Bobby Hart pretty close to 100%. It's the right move to go with Bobby Hart. But, 4 pressures in 3 games, hasn't given up more than 2 pressures in any game so far in those 3 games, whereas Trey Pipkins in 5, really 4 games of playing more than 25 snaps, 3 of those 4 games, he gave up 3 or more pressures, one of those being 9 pressures. So at the very least, they need to ride the hot hand. Maybe, you have to go back to Trey Pipkins at some point. Maybe there's certain things they like that he does better, but I think you have to keep going with Bobby Hart because he's been good a couple weeks in a row now, and it seems like he's getting better every week. And, at least 2 of those were false starts in the first game that he played in, which hard to put that on him. But let's get this next one here from Voodoo, who says, buy or sell, Joe Ortiz does not regret making bigger moves on the interior interior offensive line last offseason, considering how all those free agent linemen have performed. Vikings are a perfect example. So I think what this is saying basically is the Chargers don't regret not spending more in free agency because those gigantic contracts, which we were all surprised by how big some of those numbers were, haven't always panned out the same. So David, what do you think? Are you buying or selling that?
I'm selling it because the play of the interior hasn't been good enough regardless. I mean, 56.4 for Zion, and that's the high end of the interior. 47.8 for Bozeman, and
for pass blocking grades or just overall grades?
Overall grades, yeah. Overall grades for the interior is not good enough. And also, like, obviously we talk about grades, but the eye test is there too. I mean, I think with Zion, he's clearly been the best of the interior guys, where he's been able to get some push in the running game, and he's been decent, I guess, as a pass protector. But the other 2 guys have just been straight up bad. I mean, Bradley Bozeman's been very, very inconsistent. He's been available. He's been out there. He's been very durable, and that's something that you can always, kind of, hang your hat on when you're talking about Bradley Bozeman. But Mekhi Becton, the big ticket, the guy that they brought in to be the stabilizing force, hasn't been able to stay on the field, so he hasn't been able to do that. So no, I'm selling it. They absolutely should have done more. At the very least, brought in more competition, which they did not do that. Obviously, hindsight's always 2020, but they had the resources to make some better moves, and they just didn't use them.
They had resources to be better. I mean, I don't necessarily blame them for not spending, huge on some of these guys, but these are between all the centers and guards who have played 100 pass blocking snaps. These are all the guys who they could have had in free agency that they didn't. Patrick McCarry, 3 years, $12.5 million per year, 102nd out of 121. Good job passing on that. Will Freeze, 23 out of 121, and his was a 5-year deal, $80+ million. Ryan Kelly only played 3 games, but he's 14th out of 121. Drew Dahlman, the best center, 27th out of 121. Garrett Bradbury, 2 years, $4.75 million per season, 25th out of 121. Greg Van Roten, 1 year, $3.3 million, like 39th in pass blocking grade. Kevin Zeitler, 38th, 1 year, $9 million. There were options out there. I understand not wanting to overpay, and some of those guys got contracts that were just ridiculous. But to not have more competition is where they went really, really wrong. And then when you only spend 1 pick on the interior of the offensive line in 2 drafts, and that's a 6th-round pick that gets cut, you didn't invest enough in it. Now, you might have generational offensive players that you drafted. They obviously went that direction. But they left the offensive line at a level that just it can't be for a team that wants to contend. But we still have more to get into on this Buy or Sell Tuesday, including if Oronde Gadsden can hit 1,000 yards as a rookie. We're getting all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. All you have to do, connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments, nothing like that. If prescribed, it will even ship discreetly straight to your door, and the process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. Visit Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. David, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And right now, we have all the sports going on. It's the best time to be a sports fan right now. But even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. The odds are out. I teased it earlier for the Chargers against the Titans this weekend, and it's the biggest, I think, favorite I've seen in the Jim Harbaugh era. They're 10.5-point favorites to beat the Titans in Tennessee. I know that makes a lot of Chargers fans with some scar tissue a little uncomfortable, but this is very much a no excuses game for me this weekend. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins, so head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. David, we still have some more buy or sells to get into here from the everydayers, and thank you for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, make sure to check out the Locked On NFL show, where you can keep up with everything around the league with 2 shows a day with Tyler the Madman rolling, which you'll see on this channel later this week, and my guy Tony Wiggins in the Barbershop on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts from. David, let's get to this one here from Chris Saiz, who has a good one for us. Buy or sell, Oronde Gadsden will be the second Chargers rookie in as many years to hit 1,000 receiving yards. What do you think?
Man, I have absolutely loved what Oronde Gadsden II has done with the opportunities that he's been given. He's been a big play machine. He absolutely has been really, really fun to watch. In 6 games, 27 receptions, 385 yards, 14.3 yards per reception, and, of course, a pair of touchdowns. Now, we got to do a little bit of math here. With 9 games left in the season and Oronde missing the first 2, it's going to be kind of difficult, man. He's going to have to average 68 receiving yards per game the rest of the way to be able to get to 1,000 receiving yards. Not impossible, but that's going to be really, really difficult. He's going to have another couple of really, really big games to be able to really make that number achievable.
Yeah, and it would be a real conversation had he played the first 2 games, right? But right now, he's on pace for 9. If he does what he's been able to do over the last 6 games, over the next 9 games, he's on pace for 963 yards, 67 catches, and between 4 and 5 touchdowns. So he's not far away, but Hunter Henry never had a 700-yard season as a Charger, right? Like, the last person to even have a 700-yard season was Antonio Gates.
Yeah.
Wow. And it almost seemed disappointing if he doesn't get to that at this point, right? With how well he's played over the last few games. I think the hardest thing about him making it to 1,000 is he would need another huge monstrous game, and we've already seen him have a 160-yard game, but he's not going to sneak up on anybody again like that. And obviously that was a weird game where the Chargers were down so big so early.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going to push 700-800 yards. But right now, kind of surprisingly, both Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey are on pace for over 1,000 yards right now. Quentin Johnston obviously missed some time. He was on pace. He was the leading receiver through 4 weeks, and then had this last game and didn't even get a target. But I think with Oronde, he's absolutely taken over as the main tight end on this team. But we know there's a lot of other mouths that have to get fed. I could see, at this point, I don't think it's crazy to think that 4 guys on this team could have 800 or more receiving yards. And that doesn't even feel like a bold prediction at this point. And I guarantee that's happened very, very few times in NFL history. But let's get this next one here from Hunter Palermo on Twitter, who says, buy or sell, Trey Harris will solidify himself as a starter by the end of the season. David, what do you think?
I love what Trey Harris has done in the very limited opportunities that he's been given, right? 11 catches on 15 targets, 103 yards, and a touchdown. But I think what I have noticed that I've been very encouraged by is 6 of his 11 receptions have resulted in a first down. So that means that the Chargers are trusting him in those situations on third down, even on 4th down, where they're looking his way and they're trusting the rookie to be able to make a big play. And also, he has been invaluable in the running game. He has been fantastic as a run blocker. There's a lot of mouths to feed on this offense. There's a lot of weapons to be able to utilize. But I think Trey Harris already is a starter. I think in what he is doing and how he's contributing, I feel like he is a major part of the offense. They need him out there. He is making an impact on this team. Now, as far as depth chart opportunities, I think that all really is going to depend on game plan and health. But he is a very important part of this offense.
I think what's most important is how many snaps you're playing, right? How many times are you out in the field? In the last game, he outsnapped Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen. He had the 2nd most snaps out of any Chargers wide receiver. When I think of a team, I think of them in 11 personnel, where I think of 3 starting receivers, 1 starting tight end, 1 starting running back. By the end of the year, I think you're going to continue to see him be kind of one of the top 3 snap getters on this offense, because it is more than just the receiving game. It is more than just the numbers he's putting up in the receiving game. It's about the run blocking.
Yeah.
It's about the other stuff that he's doing well. And in this last game, Quentin Johnston mainly used as a decoy to go deep, take the top off the defense. Does have the 2 drops on the season, but I don't think it's that, man. I think it's just he doesn't really make the tough catches, and Trey Harris has shown that, right? With Quentin Johnston, it's always going, there's drops, and then there's just catches you should make that probably aren't drops. Quentin Johnston has a little bit too many in the latter category, where I could see, okay, maybe for big downs and big moments, we need someone who can make a tough catch. I trust Trey Harris to make that catch. I trust Ladd McConkey to make that catch. I trust Keenan Allen to make that catch. Probably all more than I trust Quentin Johnston in a big moment like that. Now, I think we're going to see much more of Quentin Johnston involved. I do not think this is the end of that. I think that was definitely game plan specific. I mean, Keenan Allen barely played in that game after torching that team for 215 yards last time they played each other. I think snap-wise, he'll be up there, but I think it's going to be kind of a 4-receiver room unless one of those guys is hurt. But let's get to this last one here, David, from Jackson, who says, buy or sell, this win against the Vikings needs to be taken with a grain of salt. There's still a lot of cleaning up that needs to be done on offense and defense, and this team can't be considered a threat in the AFC yet. Are you buying or selling that?
No, I'm not going to take this win with a grain of salt at all because of how it happened and how they were able to do it. I think that's what's very important. Number one, they played with physicality and violence on both sides of the ball, which is something we haven't seen in a couple of weeks. that's something that is very, very important, and that needs to continue going forward. They got an incredible pressure, 29 pressures, 5 sacks in that game. They ran the ball incredibly efficiently, 43 times, 207 yards, almost 5 yards a carry on that, 9 of 13 on third downs. They didn't punt at all in the football game, and they were 3 of 4 in the red zone. So all of these things were issues that the Chargers showed in previous games that they were able to get corrected against the Vikings. So because of the way they were able to win and how they won in dominating fashion, I think those are all things that you should feel very good about and hope that they continue moving forward.
Yeah, I'll disagree and say that I am buying that you should take it with a grain of salt because of the last part there where he says they're not a threat in the AFC yet. Look at the team you played not even 2 weeks ago. That's what the cream of the crop of the AFC looks like, right? Obviously, you didn't have Joe Alt in that game, but you got boat raced by the Colts. That's a good team. You were not close to that good team when you played them. It's going to take more than one game against a Vikings team coming off, a 4-day West Coast trip and losing both of their tackles within 10 offensive snaps in that game to make me think this team is back. If you're going to tell me AFC threat, a threat to make a run in the AFC and take out teams like the Colts, like the Bills, like the Chiefs in the playoffs, yeah, they're not there yet to me. And I think that they're going to have to continue to beat good teams to do that. They played one good team in the last 3 weeks and they got blown out to a certain extent, 38-24. You got a 38 dropped on you. What I would say is that there are good things you can take away from that game. It doesn't have to be so black and white. And I think especially what the Chargers offense was able to do. What the defense was able to do, awesome, right? Obviously, those sacks, that pressure is great. We know they were missing a top tackle duo. It's a different looking game defensively if they have Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. I'm not going to feel bad for anyone. You got to win the games you can win, obviously. But defensively, that had been a pretty good defense. That's a defense that hadn't given up 30 all season long. That's a good defensive coordinator that they have over there, and a unit that gets a ton of pressure. Justin Herbert covered a ton of that up, right? We thought Foster Sarah had a good game because of how much he, covered some of that up, and he gave up like 6 pressures in not even a full game. Either way, yes, it's good. They showed as much as they could show me against that Vikings team. It's just going to have to be a lot more than beating Carson Wentz and the Vikings for me to take this team seriously as a threat in the AFC. Beat the Chiefs again when they have their, Rashee Rice and you have to go play them in Arrowhead. Like, I think right now it's about go on a winning streak. Beat these teams, win some of these 50-50 games. They should absolutely take care of business against the Titans. But then you get a couple with the Jaguars and the Steelers who have shown at times this year they can be good teams, and they're not going to be teams that can roll over. One win against either of those teams isn't going to show me anything. Now, you beat the Vikings and then the Titans, and then you go beat the Jaguars and the Steelers consecutively. Now I can buy in a little bit more, but I'm not going to get tricked by this team in one game, in a one-game sample, for them to go, lose to the Giants the next week after, being 3-0. So they still have a lot more for me to prove. I think right now it's be as good as you can, keep cleaning some things up, and then by the time the end of the season rolls around, maybe you're getting some guys back, maybe you can get hot and start beating some good teams, and then we'll talk about if I can take them seriously as a threat to come out of the AFC, which is how I'm taking that buy or sell. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. Good news is we have a very special episode tomorrow. Locked on Chargers Unleashed crossover, where we're going to be talking to them and do a little mid-season recap. 8 games in. Where are we at? What are the biggest storylines? A lot to talk about. So make sure you guys are back here tomorrow for that. To make sure you don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from, as well as finding the show every day on all of our social media so you don't miss posts about a big-time crossover tomorrow at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. You can also call into the show if you want to at 323-524-7924 and leave us your 30-second Chargers voicemail on there so you can get on the show. But big-time crossover episode, back-to-back crossover episodes coming up for you guys. Very excited for that. But we'll be back with you guys tomorrow with the boys from Chargers Unleashed. Until then, take it easy and go Bulls.